Joining me now is staff writer for the American Prospect, Alex Salmon. He wrote about Robinhood and GameStop and all of that fun, if you consider it fun. I kind of do. Alex, welcome back to TYT. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, no problem. So there's a lot of interesting parts to the saga, but I'm going to ask you. I'm going to start in a funny place. So for the people that are trading on Wall Street bets and the subreddit that are trying to take down the hedge funds that have tried to bet against stocks like GameStop and AMC, for those people that are betting against the hedge funds, is this mainly a political movement? Are they trying to make money? Are they right wing or left wing or neither? Can you tell?
Yeah, I think it's tempting to feel like this is like a great underdog story or like a revenge tale where these kind of hard scrabble know nothings come out of nowhere and vanquish these hedge funds. And I don't necessarily think that's the case, as much as I would obviously like it to be, and it would feel so much better as a story if it were. I think that like so many things that originate from kind of the depths of the internet, it refuses that interpretation a little bit. I think there are some people who probably believe that, who were part of this. I think there were some people who were in it to make money. I think there were some people who thought it was funny, and that's probably the depths of their commitment. But I think there also are components of all that in it as well. So it makes a lot of sense that in our wildly financialized economy, that eventually the stock market would be a point of contention, and now we have this drama that I think is interesting and is compelling, even if it's not tidily so.
So Alex, if it wasn't little guy versus the Wall Street giants, what was it?
I think it was a combination of a lot of things. I think it actually was a lot of Wall Street giants taking on other Wall Street giants, and unfortunately, when you're talking about amounts of money as big as we're talking about here, when a company goes like GameStop increases its market cap by tens of billions of dollars, the average American just isn't in a position to do that, even if they're all working together. And so I think as we've seen more details come out about this, we've seen that there actually were a lot of hedge funds on the GameStop side of things playing GameStop stock, not playing GameStop shorts. And so we kind of have these these titans of Wall Street battling each other, and a lot of them came into this very rich and went home a lot richer. And I think a lot of the novices, the Redditors, some of them made money, and I think a lot of them ended up probably getting hosed. So it wasn't, there's financial money, or sorry, institutional money on both sides of this.
So just so folks know, GameStop is not the only stock that was involved in this hedge funds versus the subreddit. But it was a symbolic stock and one of the biggest ones that went up and down. And that one was GameStop was trading at $5 back in August. It got up to $325. And since Friday, and now we're Tuesday, just a couple of days later, obviously in the markets, it's lost 70% of its value and gone back down to $90. Now that's still much higher than it was in August. But obviously, if you got in at 325, it didn't work out well for you. On the other hand, if you got in at 5, you're feeling great. So it's not black and white issue here. And I'm super curious to see if eventually people will uncover real evidence, significant evidence of hedge funds coming in on the GameStop side, right? And so we'll see. I haven't seen clear evidence of that yet, okay? But now one of the ways that we might find out, Alex, is something you wrote about, Robinhood, which is a trading app that stopped trading on GameStop and these other stocks, has gotten sued a lot because of that. So tell us about those lawsuits, and then we'll talk about whether they have a chance of winning.
Yeah, sure. So obviously at the kind of pitch of this frenzy at the highest point, when there was people diving into this and it became major national, international news, and far beyond just the financial press. Robinhood had basically put a freeze on trading for most people on these stocks. So you could only buy 5 shares, or you could only buy one one option, or you couldn't buy any at all, or they would close out your position for you without asking, and so there were these various these acts that people didn't know were going to be part of the equation, and certainly made the whole thing look much more malevolent, and resulted in a ton of enthusiasm for now, like a class action lawsuit and all this legal retribution. And I think Robinhood probably is in a lot of trouble because you as even in these situations, you can't sell people stocks for them. You can't lock their money up. It's a situation where rightfully people were really pissed, and I think a lot of people probably lost a lot of money because of that. And it shows you, importantly, the disparity between the tools that people are using here. With hedge funds are using these trading platforms and the software that is going to beat down something like Robinhood, which is not as sophisticated, for one thing, and then secondly can freeze your money or make a transaction for you. It's hard to beat the house when that's the situation.
Yeah, I want people to understand. Back in the day, in the stock market, people would go and yell and scream to buy the actual shares, right? And that's why you'd have a broker, and then it eventually developed into things like E-Trade and TD Ameritrade, where you could buy it through these websites and eventually apps. And they would charge you a certain amount per trade, $5, $6 or so, right? And then Robinhood came out in around 2013, 2014 and said, we're not gonna charge you anything for the trades. So it's all commission free. And eventually they even made buying options commission free. And a lot of these purchases on these stocks were options. That's a way of doing a bigger bet on the stock, to oversimplify. So when Robinhood now has built up 6 million users and is one of the largest platforms for trading in the whole country, in the whole world. And so, but they do make money somehow, and they make it on the side where they actually are buying the stocks through what is called a market maker. So, Alex, can you explain that side of it and what people thought might be going on, and then we'll get to whether it actually was or not.
Right. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. So it's a system called payment for order flow, and it's we're deep in the weeds here of financial process. But what it is basically is that Robinhood will bring a transaction to a market maker, like you said, and usually that's a big Wall Street firm, and say, basically we're bringing you this trade and you are going to fill it for us. And Wall Street firms love this because it's crucial information for them. I mean, this is how they make a living based on these trades, and so they get brought information about the market before it is put into place, and so they pay Robinhood to get that information to enact that trade, and then it benefits them because they can act based on that information before it's realized. And so again, this is we're deep in this, and it's confusing, but in a sense, these Wall Street firms, these market makers, were making a killing off of this from the very beginning, and they were getting information that as to how the market would behave, and they were able to act with that information in their own best interest. And so this is a process that has been criticized extensively. It was actually pioneered by Bernie Madoff, and there have been many moments where it was thought to be or thought likely to be legalized, but of course it is not. And that's kind of another thing that kind of gave fuel to the fire of people kind of questioning just how deep the chicanery runs in this situation.
Yeah, so I'll give you guys, we don't have enough time to discuss all the different ways they can rob you, but I'll give you one here. So one is the legitimate non-illegal way of doing it. So what they do is when they're buying the stock, let's say it's worth $100, they charge you $100.05. So that's how the market maker makes money, and then shares some of it with Robinhood. And the market maker in this case was Citadel, and they were also shorting GameStop. So that's why everybody thought, oh my God, Robinhood makes 40% of their money from Citadel, and one part of Citadel at least is the one that's shorting the stock. And all of a sudden they don't have enough money, according to enough deposits to be able to make these transactions. And that's why they're saying they're stopping the trade, which helps Citadel tremendously, right? And so now it gets more complicated than that because the Citadel is not the one blocking the trade, it's the clearinghouse that's blocking it based on the deposits. But basically Citadel and Robinhood make the money from charging you that extra 5 cents on every share that you're buying in that example, right? Now that's legal. It's questionable, but legal. Other brokerages charge only 1 cent as an example. So since they're not charging you per trade, they're charging you per share on Robinhood, and Robinhood actually makes more money, which means it's probably a worse deal for you, okay, than if you just paid for the trade. Now, having said all that, the illegal part is if they front load a trade, and that's closer to what Alex was saying. Front loading a trade means not only am I selling it to you for 105 cents, but I already bought it at 100. I bought a Citadel. I'm not saying they did this. I'm saying if they did this, if they buy it first, knowing that a big order is coming in, and then sell it right after the order, that's definitely market manipulation and definitely illegal. But we don't know that they did that. So Alex, my final question to you is, does anyone work at the SEC? Has anyone ever investigated the front loading, which seems like it's a layup? It's so easy for those market makers to do that. I would be shocked if a huge percentage of them weren't front loading, but we never know because the government never seems to regulate the big hedge funds. So has a lot of that happened and I'm missing it?
It's funny because actually in the case of Citadel, Citadel was fined by Finra, which is a regulatory body, for front running trades in payment for order flow situations. So it wasn't recently, but it was I think just a year or two back that they were fined by Finra for this, which is not an agency that's known to be particularly effective, much like the SEC, which also fined Robinhood for its involvement in this situation. So we're talking about two regulatory bodies that basically do nothing, but they have both taken action against both Robinhood and Citadel, which gives you a sense, and that was before there was all this attention paid to the situation, gives you the sense that there's probably very, very wide-ranging malfeasance going on here. We don't know the extent of it because those agencies have been so hollowed out, but we do know that it has happened in the past, and it's we hard to be shocked if we were to hear it was happening now.
Yeah, so let me end on this conclusion. The lawsuits that Alex wrote about on the American Prospect, you should read about it because those lawsuits could be super helpful. They're either going to find out that Robinhood didn't do anything wrong, in which case that's good, then we'll know, and Robinhood will have its name cleared, right? Or they'll find out, yeah, they're working with Citadel, and if Citadel is front running the trades, people should go to jail. Not, hey, you lost a little bit of money, or I fined you 200 million. That sounds like so much. You made 2 billion on one trade. It's a joke, right? So no, bankrupt them and put them in prison next to Bernie Madoff, if they did it, and maybe we'll find out in lawsuits if they did do it. So it'll be interesting to see. All right, Alex, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.